Twins jump into pool. Gardner is shocked, and the billionaire mother promises to give him. Before the story begins, let's make this personal. What brought you here today? A recommendation? Curiosity? Or maybe just the universe guiding you? The summer sun blazed mercilessly over the sprawling Whitmore estate in the affluent hills of Malibu. Lara Whitmore, 35 and breathtakingly beautiful, despite the shadows of grief that occasionally crossed her green eyes, stood by her floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the familiar routine unfold in her manicured backyard. Marcus Chen, her dedicated gardener for the past 2 years, knelt among her prized rose garden, his muscled arms glistening with sweat as he tended to each bloom with the care of a master craftsman. At 35, Marcus possessed the kind of rugged handsomeness that came from honest work and genuine character. His dark hair caught the sunlight as he moved methodically through the garden, completely absorbed in his craft. Lara had always admired his dedication, though she'd never allowed herself to think beyond his professional excellence. After all, she was the billionaire CEO of Whitmore Industries, and he was simply the help, or so society would say. "Mom, can we swim now?" 12-year-old Emma burst into the room, her blonde hair already pulled back in anticipation. Behind her trailed 9-year-old Tyler, clutching his favorite swim goggles. "Of course, sweetheart. Just remember the rules," Lara replied, her voice carrying that gentle authority perfected through years of both boardroom negotiations and parenting. The children raced outside, their excited shrieks echoing across the pristine yard. Marcus looked up from the roses, offering them his characteristic warm smile, the same smile that had, despite Lara's best efforts, begun to make her heart skip just a little faster each day. Emma and Tyler had always been strong swimmers, a skill their late father had insisted upon. But today, something was different. Tyler, eager to impress his sister with a new diving technique he'd seen on YouTube, climbed to the highest point of their elaborate pool setup, a decorative stone ledge never intended for jumping. "Tyler, get down from there!" Emma shouted, but her brother was already airborne. The sickening crack of his head against the pool's edge seemed to echo in slow motion. Marcus dropped his pruning shears instantly, his body moving before his mind could fully process what was happening. Tyler's small form sank beneath the crystal-clear water, a thin ribbon of red beginning to cloud around him. Without hesitation, Marcus dove fully clothed into the pool, his work boots and all. His powerful strokes carried him to Tyler in seconds, and with practiced efficiency, born from childhood summers as a lifeguard, he secured the boy and swam to the edge where Emma was screaming for her mother. "Call 911, Marcus commanded, his voice cutting through Emma's panic as he lifted Tyler's unconscious form from the water. "Tell them we have a head injury and possible drowning." Lara appeared as if materialized by sheer maternal instinct, her designer heels clicking rapidly across the stone patio. The sight of her youngest son's pale face and the blood trickling from his temple nearly brought her to her knees, but Marcus's steady presence anchored her. "He's breathing," Marcus said firmly, checking Tyler's pulse with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. "The head wound looks worse than it is, but we need to keep him still until the paramedics arrive." As sirens wailed in the distance, Tyler's eyes fluttered open. "Mom," he whispered weakly. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here," Lara choked out, tears streaming down her face as she gently stroked his hair, careful to avoid the injury. Marcus never left their side, his presence a calm fortress against the chaos. When the paramedics arrived, he provided them with clear, precise information about what had happened, the timeline, and Tyler's condition. His competence was remarkable, and for the first time, Lara truly saw him, not as her employee, but as the extraordinary man he was. At the hospital, as Tyler received stitches and underwent precautionary scans, Lara found herself sitting beside Marcus in the waiting room, both still damp from the pool. "How can I ever thank you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "You saved my son's life." Marcus turned to look at her, his dark eyes serious. "You don't need to thank me, Mrs. Whitmore. I'd do it again in a heartbeat." In that moment, something shifted between them, an invisible barrier crumbling like walls of sand before an ocean tide. The next morning arrived with the gentle California sunshine filtering through Lara's silk curtains, but everything felt different. Tyler was home, sporting a bandage and strict orders to take it easy, but alive and chattering about his awesome scar. The terror of nearly losing him had left Lara emotionally raw, her usual composed facade completely stripped away. She stood in her gourmet kitchen, mechanically preparing breakfast while her mind replayed the previous day's events. The image of Marcus diving into that pool, risking everything to save her son, played on an endless loop. She'd spent most of the night awake, not just from worry about Tyler, but from a growing awareness of feelings she'd buried since David's death 3 years ago. "Morning, Mom," Emma said softly, sliding into the breakfast nook. At 12, she possessed an emotional intelligence that sometimes startled Lara. "You look like you didn't sleep." "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just worried about your brother. Tyler's tough. He'll be bragging about this for months," Emma replied with typical preteen wisdom. "But Mom, what you said to Marcus yesterday..." Lara paused, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. "What do you mean? When you told him you'd give him anything he wanted, you meant it, didn't you?" Before Lara could respond, the doorbell chimed. Through the kitchen window, she could see Marcus approaching the garden shed, just as he had every morning for 2 years. But today, she felt compelled to intercept him. "I'll be right back," she told Emma, smoothing her designer yoga pants and checking her reflection in the hallway mirror, a vanity she hadn't indulged in since David's funeral. Marcus was organizing his tools when she approached, his movements efficient and purposeful. In daylight, she noticed details she'd previously overlooked: the careful way he maintained his equipment, the small notebook where he tracked the needs of every plant, the gentle precision with which he handled even the most delicate blooms. "Marcus," she called softly. He turned, and the smile that crossed his face was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. "Mrs. Whitmore, how's Tyler this morning?" "Much better, thanks to you." She took a deep breath, feeling uncharacteristically nervous. "I meant what I said yesterday, about giving you anything you want. Name it. A raise, a new truck, a house. I'm serious." Marcus leaned against the shed door, studying her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Can I ask you something instead?" "Of course. Why do you always call me Marcus when we're alone, but introduce me as the gardener when other people are around?" The question hit her like a physical blow. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it, realizing she had no good answer, at least none she was ready to admit. She began, then stopped. "I suppose I never thought about it." "I have," he said quietly. "I think about a lot of things I probably shouldn't." The admission hung in the air between them, charged with possibility and danger in equal measure. "Marcus, Daddy," a small voice interrupted them, and Lara turned to see an 8-year-old boy with Marcus's dark hair and bright smile racing across the lawn. This had to be Jake, the son Marcus occasionally mentioned, but whom she'd never met. "Hey, buddy," Marcus said, scooping the boy into his arms with obvious adoration. "I thought you were spending the morning with Grandma. She had to go to her doctor appointment, so she dropped me off early. Is this where you work?" "It's huge." Jake's eyes widened as he took in the mansion and grounds. "Jake, I'd like you to meet Mrs. Whitmore," Marcus said, his tone carefully formal again. "You're the rich lady," Jake announced with the brutal honesty of childhood. "Daddy says you're really smart and built a whole company." Lara couldn't help but smile at the child's directness. "Your daddy talks about me?" "All the time," Jake replied before Marcus could stop him. "He says you're the nicest boss he's ever had, and that you're really pretty, and that your kids are lucky to have such a good mom, and..." "Okay, that's enough, Jake," Marcus said, his cheeks flushing dark. But Lara felt something warm bloom in her chest. "Would you like to meet Tyler and Emma? Tyler's got a pretty impressive bandage he'd probably love to show off." As they walked toward the house together, Lara, Marcus, and his chattering son, she felt the first genuine happiness she'd experienced in 3 years. It was terrifying and wonderful and completely unexpected. But as they reached the patio, Lara noticed Emma watching them through the kitchen window, her expression unreadable. Change, Lara realized, was never simple when children were involved. "Mrs. Whitmore?" Marcus said, as Jake ran ahead to introduce himself to Tyler. "Yes? About your offer yesterday. There is something I want." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "What's that?" "Permission to care about you. Really care about you." The words hung in the morning air like a promise and a prayer all at once. 2 weeks had passed since Marcus's quiet confession on the patio, and the dynamic at the Whitmore estate had shifted in ways both subtle and profound. Tyler had recovered completely, wearing his scar like a badge of honor, while Jake had seamlessly integrated into the children's summer routine. The 3 kids spent their days swimming, playing elaborate games of hide-and-seek throughout the mansion's numerous rooms, and engaging in the kind of childhood adventures that filled the house with laughter for the first time since David's death. Lara found herself making excuses to work from home more often. conducting video conferences from her study where she could hear the children's joy echoing through the halls. She'd catch glimpses of Marcus through her window, teaching all 3 kids about different plants, patiently answering their endless questions about why roses had thorns and how long it took for an avocado tree to bear fruit. "Mom, can Jake stay for dinner again?" Tyler asked, bursting into her study with grass stains on his shorts and pure happiness radiating from his face. "That depends on whether his father has other plans," Lara replied, though she'd already instructed her housekeeper, Maria, to prepare enough food for 5. The truth was, Jake's presence had transformed their dinner table. The quiet, sometimes melancholy meals she and the children had shared for 3 years had been replaced by animated conversations about baseball cards, playground politics, and elaborate plans for a treehouse that Marcus had promised to help them build. That evening, as had become their new tradition, Marcus joined them for dinner. He'd showered and changed from his work clothes into clean jeans and a button-down shirt that made his dark eyes even more striking. Lara had begun to look forward to these moments with an intensity that both thrilled and worried her. "Jake's been telling us about his mom," Emma said suddenly, her voice carrying that particular tone children used when they were fishing for information about adult secrets. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Lara noticed Marcus's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly, and Jake's enthusiastic chatter about his day suddenly ceased. "Emma," Lara said gently, recognizing treacherous waters ahead. "It's okay," Marcus said quietly. "Jake, why don't you tell Mrs. Whitmore what you told me yesterday about school starting soon?" But Jake, with the emotional radar children possessed, had picked up on the tension. "My mom lives in heaven with Tyler and Emma's dad now," he said matter-of-factly. "That's why Daddy takes care of me by himself, and why Mrs. Whitmore takes care of Tyler and Emma by herself." The simple, innocent observation hit the table like a small earthquake. Tyler and Emma exchanged glances, and Lara felt her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. "When did your mom go to heaven?" Tyler asked with the direct curiosity of childhood. "When I was 6, Jake replied. "She got really sick, but Daddy says she sends me messages through butterflies sometimes." Marcus's eyes met Lara's across the table, and in that moment, she understood. He wasn't just her employee who'd saved Tyler's life. He was a man who'd faced the same devastating loss she had, who'd been forced to rebuild his world around the needs of a child, who understood the particular loneliness of being the only parent left standing. After dinner, while the children played video games in the media room, Lara found Marcus on the back patio, staring out at the garden he'd transformed over the past 2 years. "Cancer?" she asked softly, settling beside him on the outdoor sofa. "Leukemia, diagnosed when Jake was 5, gone 8 months later." His voice was steady, but she could hear the years of pain beneath the surface. She was everything good in the world. Patient, kind, funny. She made me want to be a better man. I'm sorry, I had no idea. I don't talk about it much. Jake's the only one who matters now." He turned to look at her. "What about David?" "Car accident. Black ice on the Pacific Coast Highway. He was coming home from a late meeting." She wrapped her arms around herself, remembering. The kids were so young. Tyler barely remembered him for a while, and that almost broke me more than losing David himself. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, watching the sun set behind the mountains. "Lara," Marcus said, and the sound of her first name on his lips sent shivers down her spine. "What are we doing here?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I know I don't want it to stop." Marcus reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers with a naturalness that felt like coming home. "The kids seem to be adjusting well to whatever this is. Emma's been watching us like a hawk. She's protective of Tyler and me since David died. Jake adores you. He told me yesterday that he wished you were his mom too." The confession made Lara's heart skip. "Marcus, there's something you should know. I've been thinking about offering you a position with the company, something that would utilize your business degree. Yes, I did my research. You're overqualified to be anyone's gardener." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "And if I said yes, what would that mean for us?" "I don't know, but I'd like to find out." As if summoned by their conversation, Jake appeared in the doorway. "Daddy, Tyler wants to know if we can have a sleepover tomorrow night." Emma said yes, but Tyler said we have to ask the grown-ups. Marcus looked at Lara questioningly. "I think that sounds perfect," she said. Later, as Marcus was leaving with a sleepy Jake in his arms, he paused at her front door. "Lara? Yes? This isn't just gratitude, is it? What you're feeling?" She looked at him standing in her doorway, holding his son, and felt her carefully constructed walls crumble completely. No, she whispered. It's not. He smiled, the kind of smile that promised everything and demanded nothing. Good, because I'm falling in love with you, and I needed to know I wasn't alone in that. The sleepover had been a revelation in chaos and joy. Lara woke to find the 3 children had constructed an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets in the living room, had consumed what appeared to be their weight in popcorn, and were currently engaged in a heated debate about whether pancakes or waffles were superior breakfast foods. Waffles have syrup pockets, Jake argued with 8-year-old logic. But pancakes are fluffier, Tyler countered, his bandage now reduced to a small band-aid. You're both wrong, Emma declared with preteen authority. French toast is obviously the best. Marcus appeared in the kitchen doorway, his hair rumpled from sleep, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Lara realized with a start that seeing him first thing in the morning felt utterly natural, as if he belonged there. Someone's been busy, he observed, surveying the fort construction project. They've been up since 6, Lara replied, handing him a cup of coffee prepared exactly how she'd learned he liked it. Strong, with just a touch of cream. How did you sleep? The question carried undertones that had nothing to do with rest and everything to do with the shift in their relationship. Better than I have in years, she answered honestly. Their moment was interrupted by Emma clearing her throat dramatically. Mom, can we talk? Privately? Lara's stomach clenched. She'd been waiting for this conversation, dreading it, and hoping it would never come all at once. Of course. Sweetheart. She followed Emma to the sunroom, leaving Marcus with the boys and their breakfast debate. Emma settled into the window seat, with the serious expression she'd inherited from David. The look that meant important business was about to be discussed. I like Marcus, Emma began carefully, and I really like Jake. He's like the little brother I always wanted but never asked for. I hear a but coming. But, Emma took a deep breath. Are you going to marry him? The direct question caught Lara completely off guard. Emma, we're not even dating officially. We're just... Mom. Emma's voice carried the patient tone of a child forced to grow up too quickly. I'm 12, not stupid. You smile differently when he's around. You wear prettier clothes when you know he's coming. And yesterday I saw you holding hands on the patio. Lara felt heat rise in her cheeks. You're very observant. I get it from you, and from Dad. Emma's voice softened when she mentioned David. Mom, I want you to be happy. Really happy. Not just pretending happy like you've been doing. I haven't been pretending. Yes, you have. Tyler and I both know. We talk about it sometimes. Emma reached for Lara's hand. But we also know Dad would want you to be happy. He told me once, before the accident, that if anything ever happened to him, I should make sure you didn't stay sad forever. Tears pricked at Lara's eyes. He said that? Dad was smart about feelings. He said love doesn't run out. It just grows bigger when you share it with more people. Emma squeezed her mother's hand. But I need you to promise me something. What's that? If you love Marcus, really love him, you can't treat him like the help anymore. He's not just the gardener, Mom. He saved Tyler. He makes you laugh, and he looks at you like you're the most amazing woman in the world. The wisdom in her 12-year-old daughter's words took Lara's breath away. And if Jake becomes part of our family officially, Tyler and I want him to know he's not just an add-on. He's our brother, period. Lara pulled Emma into her arms, overwhelmed by the depth of her daughter's emotional intelligence. How did you get so wise? Good parents, Emma replied simply. And I want Jake to have good parents too. When they returned to the kitchen, they found Marcus teaching Tyler and Jake how to make what he called perfect scrambled eggs, a technique involving patience, low heat, and constant stirring that had both boys completely fascinated. The secret, Marcus was explaining, is to take your time. You can't rush something this important. Tyler looked up as they entered. Mom, Marcus says good cooking is like gardening. You have to pay attention and care about what you're doing. He's right, Lara agreed, catching Marcus's eye over the boys' heads. Later, after Jake had gone home with promises to return soon, and Tyler and Emma had finally crashed from their sleepover sugar high, Lara found Marcus cleaning up the last remnants of their fort construction. You don't have to do that, she said. I want to. He straightened, holding a couch cushion. Emma talked to you this morning. She did. She's remarkably insightful for 12. What did she say? Lara took a deep breath. She said if I'm going to love you, I need to stop treating you like the help. Marcus went very still. And what did you tell her? I told her she was absolutely right. Lara stepped closer. Marcus, I'd like to ask you out. On an actual date. Dinner, maybe dancing, the whole traditional romance thing. The smile that spread across his face was like watching the sun come up. "Lara Whitmore, are you asking me to be your boyfriend? I'm asking you to let me court you properly," she replied, "the way you deserve to be courted." "In that case," Marcus said, setting down the cushion and moving toward her, "I'd be honored to be courted by you." When he kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise, Lara finally understood what Emma meant about love growing bigger when you shared it with more people. The restaurant Marcus had chosen for their first official date was a small Italian place tucked away in Santa Monica, far from the usual haunts where Lara might be recognized by business associates or society photographers. She'd spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing her outfit, finally settling on a simple black dress that was elegant without being ostentatious, and even more time trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. At 35, she felt like a teenager again, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror before walking into the restaurant. Marcus was already waiting, standing when he saw her approach. He'd traded his work clothes for a navy blazer and dark jeans that made him look sophisticated yet approachable. The smile he gave her when she reached the table made her knees weak. "You look beautiful," he said simply, pulling out her chair. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." The conversation flowed as easily as it did when they talked over morning coffee or evening dinners with the children. But there was an undercurrent of intimacy now, an acknowledgement of the shift in their relationship. "Tell me something I don't know about you," Lara said over wine that Marcus had selected with surprising expertise. "I used to want to be a chef," he admitted. "Went to culinary school for a year before switching to business. Turns out I love cooking for people I care about, but the pressure of a professional kitchen wasn't for me." "Is that why you're so good with the kids at breakfast?" "Partly. But mostly, it's because Jake goes through phases where he'll only eat specific things, so I've learned to make eggs 17 different ways to keep him fed." Lara laughed, the sound drawing smiles from other diners. David used to say that parenting was just creative problem-solving disguised as chaos. He sounds like he was a good father. He was. Lara sipped her wine, feeling the familiar pang of loss that came with happy memories. "He would have liked you, I think. He always said he could judge a person's character by how they treated people who couldn't do anything for them. And how do I measure up? You've never once treated Maria, the mailman, or the delivery drivers as anything less than important. You remember their names. Ask about their families." She met his eyes. "That's how I knew you were different." Marcus reached across the table to take her hand. "Lara, can I ask you something that might be too personal? After everything we've shared? Ask away. Do you ever feel guilty? About moving on?" The question hit deep, touching the exact fear she'd been wrestling with for weeks. "Every day," she admitted. "Sometimes I lie awake at night wondering if I'm betraying David's memory, or if I'm being selfish, or if I'm going to mess this up and hurt the kids. I know exactly what you mean. Sarah made me promise before she died that I wouldn't spend my life alone. But when I started having feelings for you, I felt like I was cheating on her memory. How do you reconcile it?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, absently tracing circles on her hand with his thumb. "I think about what Sarah would say if she could see Jake now. How happy he's been these past few weeks, how he lights up when he talks about Tyler and Emma, how he asks me every morning if he gets to see you that day." He looked up at her. "She'd tell me I was an idiot if I let fear keep me from giving him a complete family again. David used to say that love wasn't a finite resource, that loving more people didn't mean loving him less. Smart man." They were interrupted by the waiter bringing their entrees, but the conversation had shifted something fundamental between them. The guilt and fear were still there. Lara suspected they always would be, but they no longer felt insurmountable. "There's something else," Marcus said as they shared tiramisu for dessert. "About my work situation." Lara's pulse quickened. They'd talked briefly about the corporate position she'd mentioned, but hadn't discussed details. "I've been thinking about your offer, the position with Whitmore Industries, and I want to do it right. I don't want anyone to be able to say I got the job because I'm sleeping with the boss." Lara nearly choked on her wine. "Are you sleeping with the boss?" The heat in Marcus's eyes made her stomach flip. "Not yet, but I'd very much like to be." "Marcus Chen, are you propositioning me in public?" "Maybe a little." His grin was boyish and charming and completely irresistible. On the drive home, they'd taken separate cars to avoid assumptions. Lara found herself thinking about logistics for the first time in years. Emma was sleeping over at her friend Sarah's house, and Tyler was spending the night with his grandparents. The house would be empty except for her. Marcus followed her home, both of them knowing without discussion that this evening wasn't over yet. In her foyer, surrounded by the elegant trappings of wealth that had always seemed to separate them, Marcus cupped her face in his hands. "Are you sure about this?" he asked softly. Instead of answering with words, Lara rose on her tiptoes and kissed him with 3 years of loneliness, weeks of growing attraction, and a lifetime of hope for what they could become together. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Lara. Completely. Terrifyingly. Forever kind of love." "I love you too," she whispered back. "And that scares me to death." "Good," he murmured against her lips. The best things always do. As he carried her upstairs to her bedroom, to their future, Lara felt the last walls around her heart crumble completely. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight was just theirs. The moonlight streaming through her bedroom windows illuminated their love with silver promises of forever. The morning after their first night together brought a revelation that was both wonderful and terrifying. Waking up next to Marcus felt like the most natural thing in the world. Lara had expected awkwardness, regret, or at least some morning after uncertainty. Instead, she felt complete for the first time since David's death. Marcus was already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with an expression of such tender amazement that it made her heart skip. "Good morning," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Good morning." She stretched, enjoying the luxurious feeling of having nowhere to be except right here. "No regrets? Only that we waited so long to do this." He leaned down to kiss her, slow and sweet and full of promise. They were interrupted by the sound of car doors slamming in the driveway. "Oh, God!" Lara sat up abruptly, reality crashing back. Emma's home early. Marcus was already moving, pulling on his clothes with efficient speed. "Back door? Through the kitchen. Your truck's in the garage. She won't know you stayed." But as Marcus reached for his shoes, they heard Emma's voice in the foyer, followed by another voice that made Lara's blood run cold. "Mother, we need to talk." Immediately, Eleanor Whitmore, David's mother, had arrived. "Hide in the bathroom," Lara whispered urgently to Marcus. "I'll get rid of her." But Eleanor Whitmore had never been easily dismissed. Lara threw on a robe and hurried downstairs, her mind racing for explanations. "Eleanor, what a surprise!" "Emma, sweetheart, how was your sleepover?" "It was great, Mom. But Mrs. Whitmore came to get me early. She said it was important." Emma's expression was worried, picking up on the tension radiating from her grandmother. Eleanor Whitmore stood in the living room like a general surveying a battlefield. At 68, David's mother remained formidable, her silver hair perfectly styled, her designer suit immaculate despite the early hour. "Lara, we need to discuss some disturbing rumors that have reached my attention." "What kind of rumors?" "About you and the help." Eleanor's voice dripped disapproval. "I've had 3 different people mention seeing you at restaurants with that gardener of yours. People are talking." Emma's eyes widened, and Lara felt her daughter's gaze like a weight. "Eleanor, I don't think this is appropriate to discuss in front of Emma. On the contrary, I think Emma needs to understand what's at stake here." Eleanor turned to her granddaughter. "Sweetheart, your father built an empire. Your mother has responsibilities to that legacy, to society, to your family's reputation." "Grandma," Emma said carefully, "Marcus is nice. He makes Mom happy. I'm sure he's a lovely person, dear. But there are appropriate relationships and inappropriate ones. Your mother can't just..." "Can't what?" Marcus's voice cut through Eleanor's speech like a blade. Everyone turned to see him standing in the kitchen doorway, fully dressed but clearly having just emerged from upstairs. His presence filled the room with quiet dignity and barely contained anger. "You must be Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Marcus Chen. I believe you wanted to discuss me." Eleanor's face went pale, then flushed red. "Young man, this is a private family matter. With respect, ma'am, any conversation about my relationship with Lara concerns me directly." Marcus moved to stand beside Lara, not touching her, but clearly presenting a united front. "Your relationship?" Eleanor's voice rose. "What exactly is the nature of this relationship?" "I love your daughter-in-law," Marcus said simply, "and I believe she loves me. We're trying to build something beautiful together, for ourselves and for our children." "Our children?" Eleanor looked between them, horrified. "You're talking about marriage? About blending families with the gardener?" "Eleanor, that's enough." Lara finally found her voice, anger giving her strength. "Marcus isn't the gardener. He's a businessman with an MBA who saved your grandson's life and treats your granddaughter like a princess. He's kind, intelligent, hardworking, and he makes me want to be better than I am. But what will people say? The board of directors, the country club, our friends, Our friends will be happy for us, Lara replied firmly. And anyone who wasn't really a friend to begin with. Emma, who had been watching this adult drama unfold with increasing concern, suddenly stepped forward. Grandma, Dad told me once that the only thing that mattered was whether someone made the people you love happy and safe. Marcus makes Mom happy and keeps us safe. The wisdom of her 12-year-old granddaughter seemed to deflate Eleanor's outrage slightly. Marcus turned to Emma. Thank you, sweetheart. But your grandmother has legitimate concerns about reputation and social expectations. I understand that. He faced Eleanor directly. Mrs. Whitmore, I know this looks sudden from the outside. I know there are social complications. But I also know that your son loved Lara enough to want her to be happy, even after he was gone. Eleanor's composure cracked slightly at the mention of David. I'm not trying to replace him, Marcus continued. No one could, but I can promise you that I will spend every day of my life making sure Lara and these children feel loved and protected. The room fell silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Finally, Eleanor spoke, her voice softer than before. David did say, before the accident, that he worried about Lara being alone. She looked at her granddaughter, then at Lara. He made me promise to make sure she didn't isolate herself. I'm not isolated, Eleanor. I'm finally living again. Eleanor studied Marcus with the shrewd gaze that had helped her navigate decades of high society. What are your intentions, Mr. Chen? To marry her, if she'll have me. To be a father to Tyler and Emma. To give Jake the family he's been missing. And to love them all for the rest of my life. The declaration hung in the air like a challenge and a vow. Emma broke the tension. Does this mean Jake gets to be my real brother? Despite everything, Lara laughed. If that's what everyone wants, then yes. Eleanor sank into the nearest chair, looking suddenly older than her 68 years. This is all happening very fast. Some things don't need time to be true, Marcus said gently. I knew I loved Lara the moment I saw her cry over Tyler in that hospital. And I knew I wanted to spend my life with her the first time she laughed at one of Jake's terrible jokes. Grandma, Emma said, settling beside Eleanor on the sofa. I know this is different from what you expected, but we've been sad for so long. Don't you want us to be happy? Eleanor looked at her granddaughter, really looked at her, and seemed to see the light that had returned to Emma's eyes, the easy smile that had been missing for 3 years. Of course I want you to be happy, darling. Then please try to like Marcus, because he's going to be around for a long time. Later, after Eleanor had left with promises to consider the situation, and Emma had gone to call Tyler with the news, Lara and Marcus sat on the back patio where their romance had begun. That went better than expected, Marcus said, pulling her close. Did it? She looked like she was planning my social exile. She was protecting her family. I can respect that. Besides, he grinned, you defended me quite passionately in there. I meant every word. Lara turned in his arms. Marcus, when you told Eleanor you wanted to marry me, did you mean that? Every word. But I want to do it right. Court you properly, meet your friends, prove to everyone that this isn't some rebound romance or social climbing scheme. And I want to give you the proposal you deserve, not in declaration made under pressure to my disapproving mother-in-law. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the garden Marcus had created with such care over the past 2 years. There's something else, Marcus said eventually. Something I should have told you before we got this serious. Lara's stomach clenched. What? The night Sarah died, she made me promise something. She said that when I found love again, not if, when I had to be completely honest from the beginning. No secrets, no matter how painful. I'm listening. Marcus took a deep breath. I didn't just happen to find the job here, Lara. I knew who you were when I applied. The confession hit her like a physical blow. What do you mean? I knew you were a widow with 2 children. I knew about David's accident. I knew you ran Whitmore Industries. He rushed on before she could interrupt. But I swear to you, I never intended for this to happen. I needed a job that would let me be close to Jake, and I thought working for someone who understood loss might be easier. Lara stared at him, processing this revelation. You researched me? Basic internet searches. Public records. I needed to know it would be a safe environment for Jake. His voice was desperate now. Lara, I never planned to fall in love with you. That was never part of any agenda. She was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus watched her face anxiously. Is there anything else I should know? She asked finally. That's everything. I swear. Lara stood up, pacing to the edge of the patio. When she turned back, her expression was unreadable. Marcus, I did the same thing. What? Before I hired you, I had you investigated. Background check, credit report, references going back 10 years. I even had someone verify your employment history and check for any criminal record. Now it was Marcus's turn to stare. I'm a billionaire with 2 young children, Lara continued. I investigate everyone who comes near my family. The fact that you were a widowed single father actually made me more likely to hire you, not less. Relief flooded Marcus's face. So we're even? We're even. No more secrets? No more secrets. As the sun set over the garden that had brought them together, Lara realized that every relationship built on loss carried the weight of the past. But if they were honest with each other, if they honored what they'd lost while embracing what they'd found, they might just build something stronger than either had dared to hope for. I love you, Marcus Chen. All of you, including the parts that are careful and protective, and sometimes scared. I love you too, Lara Whitmore. And tomorrow, I'm going to start proving to the world that I'm worthy of that love. The first phase of their love story was ending, but Lara could feel the promise of everything that was about to begin. 3 months after Eleanor's dramatic visit, Marcus had officially started as director of operations at Whitmore Industries. The autumn air carried promise of change as their blended family found its rhythm. Jake now spent most nights at the mansion, his bedroom decorated with superhero posters and family photos, including Tyler and Emma. On this Saturday morning, Lara woke to find Marcus already dressed. Emergency at downtown office. Water main break, he explained, kissing her forehead. Back by noon for treehouse building. After he left, Lara's peaceful morning was shattered by a phone call. Mrs. Whitmore? Detective Sarah Morrison, LAPD. I need to discuss Marcus Chen's background. 20 minutes later, Detective Morrison sat in Lara's living room with a shocking revelation. Marcus Chen isn't his real name. He was born Marcus Liu, heir to Liu Industries, a $2 billion empire. Lara's world tilted. That's impossible. He legally changed his name 8 years ago after walking away from his inheritance. His father, William Liu, died 2 weeks ago, leaving Marcus everything. When Marcus returned and saw the police car, his face showed he'd been expecting this moment. What did you tell her? He asked Detective Morrison. The truth. About your father's business, the inheritance, why you disappeared. Marcus sank into a chair. My father wasn't just in import, export. He laundered money for dangerous people. When Sarah started investigating irregularities, she became a threat. Lara felt her breath catch. What are you saying? Sarah wasn't just sick. She was poisoned. Slowly, made to look like cancer. Marcus's hands clenched. After she died, I found evidence Sarah had hidden. I sent it to the FBI anonymously and disappeared with Jake. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Your father's death puts you in position to testify against his associates, but it also makes you a target. We're in danger? Lara asked. I'm saying precautions would be wise. For all of you. The family meeting that followed was heartbreaking. Marcus gently explained to 3 sets of wide eyes that his real name was different, that his family had billions they'd never known about, and that bad people might be interested in that money. So you're secretly rich? Tyler asked, struggling with the concept. My father was rich. I chose not to be. Jake, unusually quiet, finally spoke. Daddy, are the bad people going to hurt us like they hurt Mommy? Marcus pulled his son close. I will never let anything happen to you, or Tyler, Emma, or Lara. I promise. But you promised Mommy would be okay too, Jake whispered. Later, Lara confronted Marcus in the study. I don't know who you are anymore. I thought you were honest, genuine. Now you're heir to a criminal fortune? I'm the same man I was this morning. No, you're not. This morning you were Marcus Chen, the gardener. Now you're Marcus Liu, the billionaire with a target on his back. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. There's something else. The FBI agent working this case? She was Sarah's best friend. She's been in contact with me for years, helping me stay safe. You've been talking to the FBI this entire time? She knew about you, about us. They needed to assess if you could be used as leverage. So our relationship has been under surveillance? Not surveillance, just awareness. Lara, my feelings have never been anything but real. But you never told me I was putting my children at risk, because I thought that part of my life was over. Lara paced to the window. I think you should take Jake and stay somewhere else tonight. I need time to think. Don't let this destroy us. I'm not destroying anything. I'm processing that the man I love has been living a lie. After Marcus left with tearful Jake, Lara sat alone in her study. Her phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Mom, Are you going to break up with Marcus because he's rich? The truth was, the money didn't scare her. She had plenty. What terrified her was realizing love couldn't exist without trust. And trust, once broken, was the hardest thing to rebuild. Agent Lisa Park arrived the next morning with more revelations. Marcus called me in panic about your third date, worried that getting serious would put you at risk. She showed Lara surveillance photos. Her and Marcus at restaurants, farmers markets, even in her backyard. His father knew about your relationship the entire time. So we were never safe? Actually, you were safer than you knew. Marcus refused every contact attempt from his father's people. When Marcus arrived, Agent Park explained the situation. We've intercepted communications. Your father's associates plan to contact you soon. The kind that starts friendly and ends with threats. Then we fight back, Lara declared suddenly. Marcus testifies publicly, completely. We make it clear he's not just refusing cooperation. He's actively working to destroy them. That's risky, Agent Park warned, but it could work. If Marcus goes full cooperation, these people would know there's no point threatening him anymore. Marcus studied Lara's face. Why would you suggest more risk after everything? Because I love you. Not Marcus Liu, the billionaire. Not Marcus Chen, the gardener. I love the man who saves children and makes Jake feel safe. But if we do this, it has to be built on complete honesty. No more secrets. Marcus met her eyes. And the inheritance? A foundation. To help families victimized by organized crime. Sarah would have loved that. Then let's do it for her. And for us. 6 weeks later, their lives had found a new routine under federal protection. Marcus spent days dismantling his father's empire piece by piece, while media attention swirled around, billionaire heir turned state's witness. Tonight was Eleanor's 70th birthday celebration, and their planned engagement. Too many variables. Agent Rivera warned about the party. Marcus shouldn't attend. He's not missing Eleanor's birthday. We're getting engaged tonight in front of family and friends. At the Beverly Hills Hotel, Eleanor held court in silver silk, her earlier reservations about Marcus forgotten. As dessert was served, she stood to address the crowd. 3 years ago, my son David was taken too soon. I watched my family retreat into grief, but sometimes life gives second chances. She gestured toward their table. Marcus Chen. Yes, I know that's not your birth name, but it's the name you chose. And choice matters. You saved my grandson's life, and this family's future. Marcus stood, reaching for the ring box. Lara, 2 years ago you hired a gardener. You didn't know you were saving a broken man and his son. He dropped to one knee. You taught me love doesn't end when someone dies. It grows when you're brave enough to share it. Lara Elizabeth Whitmore, will you marry me? Yes! The ballroom erupted as he slipped the emerald ring onto her finger, but Agent Rivera appeared immediately. We need to leave. Bomb threat specifically mentioning Marcus and tonight's location. As they were rushed out, Lara clung to Marcus's hand. Is this our life now? Always looking over shoulders? No. This ends soon. I promise. But across town, Agent Park was receiving information that would either destroy Marcus forever or finally set him free. The bomb threat was false, but the next morning brought devastating news. The Detective Morrison who contacted you? She wasn't LAPD. She was killed 3 weeks ago. The woman who came to your house was an imposter. Agent Park spread files across the conference table. She was gathering intelligence for your father's associates. But she made a mistake. We have her meeting with Vincent Torrino, your father's partner, the man who ordered Sarah's poisoning. Marcus felt years of grief and rage surface. What do you need? We need you to meet with him. Wearing a wire. Let him think you're ready to negotiate. Absolutely not. Lara stood. That's suicide. It's the only way to get a confession, Agent Park explained. This is our chance to end it, Marcus said. To get justice for Sarah and freedom for us. Agent Park pulled out final documents. There's more. Vincent Torrino was indicted on 17 counts, but the case hinges on financial records only you can access as heir. You want me to help trace blood money? To follow the trail that puts Sarah's killers in prison forever. Marcus was quiet. Then, if I do this, what happens to the inheritance? Most will be frozen as evidence. Could be years. Good. I never wanted it anyway. Promise me, Lara said. After this is over, no more secrets. Just us building a future. I promise. The meeting with Vincent Torrino was set for the next evening. Marcus spent the day learning to use recording equipment and memorizing account numbers. That night, Lara watched him prepare. The children know something's happening. What did you tell them? That Daddy has one important meeting, Then all the scary stuff ends. And if something goes wrong? Nothing's going wrong. You're coming home. We're getting married in 3 weeks. She kissed him fiercely. I love you, Marcus Chen. Now go get the bad guys so we can live happily ever after. Hours later, Marcus sat across from Vincent Torrino, silver-haired, expensively dressed, coldly intelligent. You look like your father, but softer. 8 years playing gardener will do that. 8 years raising my son alone after your people killed his mother. Regrettable but necessary. Sarah asked too many questions. So you had her poisoned. I had a problem solved. Your father understood that. The confession agent Park needed, recorded clearly. Now you're head of the Liu Empire. $2 billion, Marcus. If I overlook how it was made. Torrino leaned forward. That fancy fiancé, those stepchildren. Accidents happen to people who don't cooperate. Look what happened to Sarah. Are you threatening my family? I'm reminding you cooperation has always been the Liu path to prosperity. Marcus reached for his wine. Vincent, there's something you should know about me. What's that? I'm not my father. Federal agents burst through the doors. Vincent Torrino, you're under arrest. As handcuffs clicked, Marcus felt 8 years of fear finally lifting. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood at the altar watching Lara walk down the aisle in elegant ivory. Tyler and Jake were ring bearers, Emma maid of honor, Eleanor beaming from the front row. I, Marcus, take you, Lara, to be my wife. I promise to love you completely, protect our family fiercely, and never again let fear keep me from the life we deserve. I, Lara, take you, Marcus. I promise to trust you completely, stand by you courageously, and build a love that honors our past while embracing our future. Later, on the hotel balcony overlooking Los Angeles lights, Marcus pulled his new wife close. No regrets? Only that we waited so long to stop being afraid. And the foundation? Starts Monday. The Sarah Chen Foundation for crime victims, funded by your father's assets. She would have loved that. David would have too. He always said the best way to honor the dead was to help the living. As they drove home to their children and future, Marcus understood what Sarah meant about not spending life alone. Love wasn't about replacing what was lost. It was about growing big enough to hold both grief and joy, memory and hope. Ready to go home, Mrs. Chen? More than ready, Mr. Chen. The garden that brought them together waited in moonlight, ready for whatever they would choose to grow there next.